Hello, folks. Our Wimbledon coverage this year is sponsored by Local Tennis Leagues, the home of friendly, competitive tennis in the UK.
With over 10,000 players in local tennis leagues up and down the country, it's never been easier to find someone locally with a similar ability to have a hit with.
It really is tennis on your terms, competitive and with total control of when and where you play over 8-week rounds.
It's also a fun way to get fit, meet new people, make the most of your local park or tennis venue, and get those competitive juices flowing.
And it's absolutely open to all standards. You just need to be 18 or over to play.
So whether you're at the beginning of your tennis journey like me,
or a master on the court like me, there's something for everyone.
Once you're signed up, there's also the chance to win prizes, play for points, and receive a free tube of tennis balls just for playing your matches. You also get a host of other great benefits, including access to the Wimbledon ballot.
So what are you waiting for? Join Local Tennis Leagues today at www.localtennisleagues.com and use our exclusive checkout code weekly50 in capitals for 50% off your £18 entry fee.
That's www.localtennisleagues.com, weekly50 at the checkout. The link is in the description. So get ready to play some friendly,
competitive tennis
on a court near you.
Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel and Kim. On today's Wimbledon Round 4 catch-up, sponsored by Local Tennis Leagues.
Simona Halep swats away Paula Badosa.
Cam Norrie is the last Brit standing.
And Roger Federer returns for the centenary centre court celebrations.
Kim, today is the 4th of July and we are here to catch up on round 4 at Wimbledon at Tennis Weekly HQ. We are coming off the back of Rafael Nadal defeating Botic van de Zandschulp in 3 sets. It was a little bit nervy towards the end. I thought we were going to be recording maybe 20 minutes before we are now with Rafa 5-2 up, but then being taken to a tie break. But yeah, was able to get it done in the end. And, you know, obviously you're a Rafa fan. How were your fingernails during that third set? Because Botic van de Zandschulp, he did ask some questions there about whether he was going to take it to a 4th set and open up all sorts of what I feel is Wimbledon's like Pandora's box with light, the roof, curfew, etc., etc.
Yeah, we all know how the roof can change the dynamics of a match. So I was very pleased that Rafa was able to avoid the roof. He did make a bit of a meal of it, getting tight and, not being able to serve out at 5-4 in the third. But getting it done on the tiebreak, I think that's the first tiebreak he's played all tournament. So, relieved in the end. It was definitely actually overall an easier match than I envisaged for Rafa. He was able to get onto van de Zandschulp's serve a lot easier. And it wasn't as close as I thought, actually, but an entertaining match regardless. I'm sure the next one will be a lot tougher against Taylor Fritz. But very pleased we didn't go down the route of the roof. I mean, the roof seems to be coming into play a lot, though, doesn't it? It was in action last night with Novak and Tim van Rijthoven. And we've only got hospitality to blame for that, haven't we, Joel? You and your espresso martinis.
Well, exactly. I know it's a very hard life. All seriousness, the roof has been coming into play a lot in this tournament. And the thing I find interesting about it is that I feel like the reason the roof came into existence initially was more due to rain and inclement weather, and when it rained we needed something to keep the tennis going, and that is where that was the roof's kind of role to play. But the more I feel like it's being used, the more I keep feeling like the roof is being used not because the weather's bad, but because the light is bad. And it's been a case quite a lot this week, particularly when that third match on centre has been a men's match. I feel like it's the worst position to be in on a show court, because you're just not sure if your match is going to get done. You might be worried about the curfew. You've got to wait for that little delay with the roof closing. You can have another warm up. It just adds a completely different dynamic to the proceedings. And as you know with Rafa, feels like it would go against him, particularly if he came up against a big server. But yeah, it's interesting. I think the roof's role, I think, has changed over the years, and perhaps that means that like Wimbledon is an outdoor tournament, and whether we should be starting earlier, given we should be making the most of the daylight, and we shouldn't be using the roof to make this arguably an indoor tournament when the weather is okay outside.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they've always pretty much started centre court around 1 p.m, but it just seems that, I mean, I know it's 1:30 on centre now, but I don't know, it just seems like we're getting a lot more matches going later. But I suppose back in the day, they would have just had to curtail them because of the light and rain. But ideally, yeah, you would start the action like an hour earlier. But, obviously people in hospitality, they can't finish their lunch before 12:30, can they? So it's all
I would
dictated.
make it a brunch. Just make it a posh brunch or a posh breakfast. And
yeah, bottomless brunch.
Maybe start it earlier. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
pancakes.
yeah, it was. I mean, I did have a great lunch, and it was amazing. Michelle Roux came to my table and greeted us, and yeah, the lamb was exquisite, and yes, it was fantastic. But yeah, I do wonder if they could look at that. I feel like that this is a tradition that will die hard, and hospitality is a big part of Wimbledon. There are people there who want to have that social occasion, that social element, as well as the tennis. But it feels like for the players, they would like to start earlier. I think Novak Djokovic yesterday called out, and he, I think, has heard that there are discussions on whether they start half an hour earlier. Who knows, maybe an hour earlier, but still retain that sort of that specialness of playing on centre court, but just making sure that there's a little bit more, I feel, buffer time when it comes to the end of the day, and making sure matches get played and they don't carry over and start affecting the competition. So I get it from that perspective. I will say though, Kim, I was under the roof for Djokovic, Tim van Rijthoven, and I was under the roof for Andy Murray versus John Isner. As a fan, being there when the roof is closed, going into the late night, it does add something. There is that special atmosphere there. Going late, you feel kind of like you're getting your money's worth. Oh, this is a little bit of a bonus, and it really just sort of ups the atmosphere. So there is sort of a part of me that I quite almost like having this, these matches go late, because it just adds a little bit more extra, I feel, value, certainly for the fans, I think, inside the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it is good fun, and also just at home watching. Like, it's great for a TV audience, evening match.
Yeah.
Everyone gets home from work, has the dinner, and the tennis is still on. So, I mean, I can totally see the appeal, but I think they have got to think about the players, which is what this tournament is all about, really, and what they maybe they could do a survey monkey, send it out to all the players, see what they would prefer, and maybe they could meet them halfway, like make it all half an hour early. I think that's not too much to ask. Although I am enjoying the fact that you found your lamb to be exquisite. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard you describe food as exquisite. You're normally like,
I've normally described it as beige, haven't I?
Your diet is normally fried chicken and Haribo. So I'm glad that you've got some like vegetables on the weekend, Joel.
Kim, that is absolutely shocking. Revealing my eating habits to all of our listeners.
They won't want to listen anymore. They'll be like, oh no, I've had enough of Joel and his fried chicken and his Mackie D's. But yeah, we'll have to see if they make any changes. I'm sure there'll be lots of changes to some extent next year, whether that's with the way they do the ticketing and the queuing and all of that.
I mean, what would you want? When do you think is the best time to start on centre court?
I think go back to 1. It always used to be 1. They've just made it that extra half hour so that it doesn't start at the same time as court 1, I guess, which must be for logistical reasons. But maybe make court 1 12:30 and centre 1 o'clock.
Is that why they did that? I thought it was more of like an exclusivity thing, and they wanted to make centre feel like the best and the most special, and therefore they give it that final slot, as opposed to like starting at the same time as another court.
I don't know if it's for TV, or I think they started doing it during like the COVID last year, so that people were arriving at different times to limit crowds, and then maybe they just stuck with it. But I don't know.
I'd start at 11 a.m.
Well,
I'd just start at 11 a.m.
Other slams do. They schedule more matches, start at 11. I mean, well, they have night sessions as well, don't they? Whereas Wimbledon have unofficial night sessions now, basically. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about the tennis today, because we had a couple of 5-setters in the men's side of things to start the day off with. So, I mean, out on court 2, arguably the match of the day, really. Alex de Minaur against
Match of the tournament.
Christian Garin. Yeah, exactly. Christian Garin coming from 2 sets to love down, also 2 match points down at one point in the 5th set, to win in a last set tiebreak. I mean, I did not see that coming when, de Minaur kind of sealed the 2nd set. I thought, oh, this is quite a, straightforward 3-set victory now. But, fair play to Christian Garin into his first quarterfinal at a slam. And, he fought magnificently in the end to cap it off with 10-6 in that last set tiebreak.
Yeah, he showed a lot of heart, I think, from 2 sets down. I think you need to in order to win in 5 sets. I think that's the first time it's happened this tournament, a player winning from 2 sets to love down. So it just shows, I think, just how much belief he had, regardless of what position he found himself in. And I think there is a little bit of a same story for Alex de Minaur in terms of lots of huffing and puffing, lots of great shot making and X, Y, and Z all around the court. But at the end of the day, sometimes he isn't just able to kind of break through and get over the line. And this will be a defeat that I think in particular hurts him, because we've said it before, Kim, Christian Garin, he is not a grass court player, or we don't feel like he's a grass court player. We associate more with the clay, but perhaps we shouldn't, because he made round 4 here last year. He's gone one step further this year and got to the quarterfinals, but he really did not show a lot of form coming into the tournament. I actually think he lost to de Minaur in Eastbourne in the lead up, and to turn that around, come out in the championship tiebreak, very, very impressive. I feel like even though he is in the quarterfinal, as soon as that happened, we just thought, oh, it's an instant win for whoever wins between Kyrgios and Nakashima, which I think is a bit unfair on Garin. But you got to think, after what, 4 hours 34 minutes, we're going to have to be looking at how he recovers and starts off in his quarterfinal, given the amount of energy, both physical energy and mental energy from coming back from 2 sets down, that could leave him particularly fatigued.
Yeah, we see this quite a lot, don't we? In the next match, that players just don't have the capacity to really go for it, because there's such an overhang from the match before. And he said at the end of the match that he's just exhausted, and unsurprisingly so. He just went for it in that final set tiebreak and tried to be as aggressive as possible, which paid off. But yeah, I mean, you've got to be in it to win it. So he will hopefully have like a day and a half to recover. He's got Kyrgios next, which definitely Kyrgios is the favourite for that one, given how he's been playing, and he came through in 5 sets today against Nakashima. Slight concern for Kyrgios fans over the shoulder, which seemed to be troubling Nick at the start of the match, especially when he dropped that first set. But he seemed to improve as it went on. I think the painkillers probably paid off, and that 5th set he was able to up it and get the job done. Pleased for Nakashima though, in the sense that it wasn't, he took it to 5 sets. I think he did a really good performance, very commendable, very calm, which is what you need to be against Kyrgios. But Nick Kyrgios, Christian Garin quarterfinal. I think that's on Kyrgios to lose there.
Definitely. I think, just before we move on to talking about Nick Kyrgios, I think the other thing with Christian Garin, and the more I think we look at, the grass courts at Wimbledon and how they have changed, I do think, they play a little bit more like a hard court. The ball doesn't go as much through the court as it used to. We tend to see, not as many serve and volleys. And perhaps that opens it up to, players like Christian Garin, who maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago, these sorts of players, they just would not have had a chance during the grass court season because of the way the court played. But as it's changed, it may have opened it up for for players like him, that even though I wouldn't necessarily say his game is suited or well suited for a grass court, it still gives him a fighting chance. And when you get into those rally situations, as he was doing against de Minaur, it was very tight at times, but ultimately he was coming out on top. So I do think there was an interesting insight there in terms of it says about the the courts and how they have changed. But certainly one player whose game is very well suited to grass is Nick Kyrgios, and his big booming serve and all the tricks of the trade. I mean, we didn't really see it in that match, Kim, against Nakashima. I think we got one underarm serve, and that was pretty much it. This was not, the fireworks of the previous round of Nick Kyrgios and Stefanos Tsitsipas, which I still don't feel like the dust has really settled on that. But it was nonetheless impressive, I think, from Kyrgios, particularly that fifth set. After losing that fourth, I thought he was just going to kind of implode as normal, facing adversity. He, wilts and just lets it go completely. But there was none of that. And he came through in that fifth set 6-2 and really, again, found a level that Nakashima couldn't deal with. But I think it was a good performance from him. It was less of the histrionics. And I think it just, again, shows that when he does focus, and when arguably I think Nakashima helped in the sense he's not a guy who's going to combust on court. He's not a guy that Kyrgios is going to be able to pick a fight with because he just wants to get on with his game. But I do think when Kyrgios is focused, and we saw that more or less in that Nakashima match, he can just play some brilliant tennis, and it got him through to, a quarter final, his first one at Wimbledon since his debut. I think 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think it might have been 2014, so 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
I mean, he's 27 now. He was saying he feels like a veteran because, I mean, and he is really, in the sense that he isn't that young person just bursting onto the scene as he was back in 2014. So, like, it is about time that he upped it.
Do you think this is his now or never moment?
Well, I mean, I don't think now or never. I think this is his best opportunity to go as deep as possible in a slam, and I think he's got the best opportunity he could really hope for to reach the semi-finals. And I mean, the only concern maybe is that if there is a shoulder issue. I think he's had shoulder issues before, and he's had to pull out of things when he's had good chances. But it just goes to show that he can behave when he wants to, and he can just play tennis. And it's always more pleasant to see a match where he isn't getting all worked up. So I was pleased that there wasn't any antics really today, at the very least.
I mean, it is fascinating that we are getting more and more into uncharted territory for Nick Kyrgios. So certainly territory we haven't been with him for a while. And, a lot of the defeats we've seen from him recently have been the result of mental implosions, whether that's from the player across the court getting frustrated with himself or with the umpire. But there is also that physical fitness aspect of his game that perhaps we don't necessarily talk about, but it's still there. And the more and more we get into this tournament, it again could be a factor in terms of his body, how it holds up, because he, although may be training out in Australia, when COVID happened, and he didn't play really much of the clay season. I think he played that one green clay event in the United States, but he's not really had a lot of match practice this season, and maybe that could count against him as we get deeper into the tournament. And his body's going to feel something maybe it hasn't felt in a long time, in terms of best of 5 set tennis, consecutive matches, fourth round, quarterfinal, semi-final, who knows, maybe final. That's a lot of tennis, and maybe his body is going to be under some serious strain that maybe it's not really been there before.
There is that. And, previously, I think he hasn't had the best off-court routine. He said before the Rafa match he played 3 years ago, I think they played in the second round, he was down the pub, prior to that, like the night before.
Well, he wanted a glass of wine in his press conference afterwards.
Well, I know, but that might be at home rather than the dog and fox in the village. I just feel like his attitude, he's realizing that he needs to kind of chill a bit more outside of the matches and be a bit more professional, which it has been known to pay dividends, being a bit more professional. But we'll see how it goes. I fully expect him to beat Christian Garin, but I mean, Garin is obviously a very it's a bit of a stalwart, lot of lot of grit in his game, as we saw today against Alex de Minaur. So definitely not one to discount, especially if there potentially is any physical issues for Kyrgios. I mean, on the other side of this half of the draw, we've got a quarterfinal now as well between Rafa Nadal and Taylor Fritz. So this is a repeat of the Indian Wells final from this year, which we saw Taylor Fritz win against Rafa. Yeah. So I mean, Taylor Fritz, first of all, he's been coming through very, very nicely in the draw. Yeah, no sets dropped. Not much sort of chat or fuss really about him. He's just going through very nicely. He kind of, a very standard match today against the qualifier Jason Kubler of Australia. I think Fritz was very, very dominant on serves, 3-1 and 4. So I mean, he won Eastbourne, didn't he, prior to Wimbledon? So he hasn't lost a match on grass for a short while. So I think this is going to be really tough for Rafa. Obviously, Rafa coming through against Van der Zandschulp in straight sets as well. This will be the match, I think, on Wednesday that's going to be close. I mean, if Taylor Fritz can keep up his game, keep serving well, I don't think he's lost his serve very much at all this tournament. So I'm intrigued to see rematch from Indian Wells earlier in the year.
And moving on to the women's matches from today, Kim, I mean, the match I was most looking forward to was perhaps the one that was the biggest disappointment. And that was Simona Halep versus Paula Badosa on centre court. Simona Halep returning to centre court for the first time since she won the trophy back in 2019. And yeah, she came out against the Spanish number 4 seed, won 6-1, 6-2. I think that was her first win against a top 5 opponent on a grass court. Gets Amanda Anisimova next. And this was a match that took me by surprise because Badosa against Kvitova, I mean, that was a really high quality match. And I actually think through the tournament so far, Badosa has played the higher tennis. I think she needed to against Kvitova in order to get the win. But Simona Halep returning to centre court, I don't know if, the site makes her feel even more inspired. She's got the new coaching setup with Murtoglu as well. It all seems to be working very well at the moment. And this was a very standout performance for her. And given that she's the only woman left in the draw who is a Grand Slam champion, you feel like, for me, this was a performance that arguably puts her as the favourite for the tournament.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a champion's performance. Many people were saying she's finally getting the chance to go on centre court, returning to the scene of her triumph in 2019. And what a way to kind of say, yeah, I am a former champion, only losing 3 games. I thought this match was definitely good. I thought, to be honest, it had 3 sets written all over it. I was expecting it to be a lot closer, as I think many people were. But they did play in Madrid earlier in the year, and Halep also dished out a very comprehensive victory there. So perhaps she just loves a matchup with Paula Badosa, and Badosa just seemed quite nervy. She never really got going, hitting a lot of unforced errors. So we know she can play better than that, and she certainly did against Kvitova the other day. But yeah, I mean, I was super pleased to see Halep come through. I think, I'd personally love her to come through and win another title here. And if she can keep up how she played today, I think she's got a really good shout. I mean, like you said, she's got Amanda Anisimova next. They played recently as well, and Halep won that one very easily. So perhaps that bodes well for Halep. But Anisimova will be tough. She's very, big hitting, very comfortable over Harmony Tan today out on court 1, and obviously into the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam for the second time. And we know she's capable of going deeper as she did at Roland Garros before. So I think that's going to be, I mean, Halep has not had an easy draw, has she? Mukova in the first round, Badosa in this round, like now Anisimova. So if she does go deep, she's had to beat some pretty decent opposition to get there.
Yeah, and Anisimova, she really is having a season or having a Grand Slam run, certainly, that reminds me of those years ago when she broke out, I think, as a 17-year-old and reaching the French Open semi-final. She was just too much for Harmony Tan today. I feel like she very much overpowered Tan. It made me think, why didn't why couldn't other players, do that and exploit, I feel, Tan's limitations on the court. I mean, Serena Williams, I feel, will be kicking herself that she wasn't able to execute the sort of game that Anisimova was able to, because I feel like they have both quite similar styles, and Anisimova was just able to, as I said, just overpower her opponent, hitting winners from the back of the court. And Tan and her slice and dice forehand just really wasn't doing much for her, and Anisimova was just kind of gobbling up all those opportunities. So I think obviously it'll be a much tougher opponent across the net for Anisimova when she has Simona Halep in the quarterfinals. And interestingly, Anisimova defeated Halep on that run, at the French Open those few years ago. So maybe she'll draw on that experience, when they meet, and maybe it'll be a much closer affair than what it was a few days ago in Bad Homburg. So I think it's a different stage, and I think both players love playing on this stage. I hope Simona's back on centre court, because I do think she does, revel in those environments. And I genuinely think that having, won the tournament and being a Grand Slam champion, I think will help her, really kind of settle early on. And Anisimova, I think, she's just not going to be intimidated, I think, by Simona Halep and just kind of play her game. I feel like she can sometimes give a little kind of too many unforced errors, too early on, and already she's kind of like 3-love down in a match. But it'll be certainly a tough and intriguing matchup, I think, for both of them.
Yeah, and another potentially intriguing matchup. I feel like this one might be a bit more one-sided in the other section. Elena Rybakina winning through against Petra Martic today, 7-5, 6-3. I mean, you said to me on WhatsApp, Joel, you said, she could be a dark horse for this title, Rybakina. No one's really been talking about her, yet we know on her day she has the potential to beat anyone and go on really solid win streaks. She's at the start of the season, like in 2020, she was on a real winning surge, and it's been a while since we've seen that kind of performances from her. She hasn't really been able to get into a groove this year for various reasons. I think she's had COVID and some illness and injury and everything, but it's nice that she's putting together some wins here. Not much form wise going into the championships, to be honest, but she's got 4 victories under her belt. She's got Tomljanovic in the quarterfinals, which I think is certainly winnable for Rybakina. So I'd be looking at her to reach the semis. To be quite honest with you, I thought she's been playing some decent tennis. Tomljanovic herself came through in 3 sets over Elise Cornet, who was the conqueror of Iga Swiatek. Tomljanovic coming back from a set down, 4-6, 6-4, 6-3. This is her second quarterfinal on the trot at SW19. So, I mean, that's fantastic in itself to back up her performance at this tournament last year. Although she's not going to get any, she's going to lose all her points regardless, of course. But yeah, pleased for Tomljanovic to reach this stage again of the tournament.
Kim, I enjoyed, despite the fact she reached the quarterfinals here last year, that her dad had not booked accommodation for week 2 at Wimbledon this year. I mean, what kind of impression does that leave on your daughter? I think in the interview afterwards, she was like, "Dad, find me some accommodation for week 2." So perhaps it surprised Tomljanovic is his father, but based on the way she's been playing, and again, I think she's a player who just likes to play on a grass court. She did have a bit of a battle on her hands against Elise Cornet, but after she, I think, settled into the match and she grew into it, there really was kind of only one outcome. And for Tomljanovic, it was interesting to hear that she said last year that she didn't enjoy it as much as she has been this year. And I think it's fascinating how last year Ash Barty, all the focus was on her from an Australian point of view. Now Ash Barty is out of the picture. I feel like she's just sort of reveling in this position a little bit more, and as I said, it's translated onto the tennis court in terms of having that freedom and just that kind of feeling that I can just go out and play my game. And against Cornet, who's a very obviously experienced player. She was able to execute her game plan and come through in the end in 3 sets.
Yeah, and I think they played this time. Well, they played in the second round of Wimbledon last year, and Tomljanovic, won through in 3 sets for that one. So, I mean, I feel like every time you play Elise Cornet, you're kind of got to expect a potential roller coaster match to some extent. But yeah, I think Tomljanovic, maybe she works better when she's like buoyed, boosted on and buoyed on by defiance, like wanting to prove her dad wrong. For him not believing that she could get to the second week again. I don't know. But yeah, it's I mean, she's one of the players that is really going to suffer, I think, from the lack of ranking points. I think that her ranking is going to go down to like 70 in the world, and she's at 44 at the moment, which is a real shame because she's obviously backed up her performance from last year. Yet rankings wise, it's quite a big drop. But I mean, perhaps she can go further. And then I'm sure she'll be absolutely chuffed to bits to have got to the semis or whatever. But yeah, I think that's going to be quite an intriguing tie. I'm going to tip Rybakina for the win there, but I think that Tomljanovic could well spring a surprise. I mean, Rybakina said that she herself has kind of come into the tournament feeling very relaxed because she hasn't really had great preparation due to sort of sickness and what have you. So I guess she's come in without much expectation, which is obvious, often for the best, really, when you don't sort of, you put so much pressure on yourself. We often find that players tend to do a lot better and surprise themselves. So I think there's a lot to be said for not having all those nerves and stress in you. But there we go.
I mean, Rybakina hits the ball so hard. And as I said, at times it is flawless tennis. She's just hitting these unbelievable number of winners and not many unforced errors. And she does go through, I feel, those purple patches in matches. It's just a question of how long that purple patch is and whether she can kind of sustain it. So I think it will certainly be a fascinating matchup, and who knows, we'll see if Tomljanovic is able to go one better than she did last year.
Indeed. I mean, let's take a quick break now, but we'll be back in the second half where we'll be looking back on all the action from day 7. The first time play has happened properly on a Sunday, even at the championships. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to our Wimbledon Round 4 catch-up, sponsored by local tennis leagues. And now we're going to move back on to looking, back at the Sunday's action, which began, Joel, not with tennis, really, on the centre court at least, but with a centenary parade of past champions. This all sort of happened before the Heather Watson-Jule Niemeier match got underway.
It lasted longer than the Niemeier Watson
Well,
match.
basically, yeah. I mean, a lot of people were basically just here for this, weren't they? They wanted to see Federer step back on that court again. The reception that he got, but not just him, but we had, obviously Rafa and Novak as well, and Halep and Kerber
and Margaret Court. Oh wait, no, not Margaret Court.
No, less said about Margaret Court, the better. Yeah, her reception was fairly muted, as we can obviously understand. But yeah, a whole host of former champions. No Serena, though. I've heard she is still in London, but she didn't want to turn up, evidently. But and no Navratilova, because unfortunately she tested positive for COVID. But yeah, lots of former champions out on court for the celebration. What did you make of it all? I've personally been loving some of the photos behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I watched it's a great trip down memory lane. Listeners, Wimbledon have posted on YouTube the full ceremony, and it was just great to see, players come through that, historic walkway onto the court, and that mix of current players with yesteryear champions, and the way they sort of built up to, these are your single Wimbledon champions, all the way up to, the likes of Roger Federer. Really kind of was made an occasion of it. There were a few kind of awkward, I think, glances, certainly between, Novak and Roger. I saw there was a little glimpse to each other and then a quick look away. So which was quite funny. But yeah, it was great to see everyone out there. However, Kim, I will say, and it goes back to that point we had earlier. Yes, this should be celebrated, and there should be time for these sorts of moments where we do reflect and look back. But why didn't they just start this like half an hour earlier? I feel like the star power on show, people were going to turn up for it regardless of if they had finished their lamb or not or whatever. I just feel like, this was one of the reasons ultimately that the play on centre yesterday went so long. And I do wonder whether they could have just maybe started it half an hour earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it did mean that Djokovic against Tim van Rijthoven, was going down late. I mean, in fact, match had gone on any longer, they would have potentially not finished and had to come back today. So, not clever planning. I certainly think they could have done the celebration slightly earlier. But again, like we were saying, the hospitality dictates, doesn't it? And I mean, it's a good job that Heather Watson didn't have a longer match, or that Sinner Alcaraz didn't go 5 sets, because we definitely wouldn't have got all the tennis done. So a bit sort of silly from the planning side, again from the schedulers, but it was a good event. It was good that they did it for the 100 years of centre court.
Billie Jean King, I love her. I was amazed. She stayed right to the bitter end for Novak Djokovic, Tim Rijthoven, after like 10:30 at night, which just shows that she loves her tennis. But my question, Kim, does she always wear that magenta sort of fuchsia jacket to every sort of tennis she ever goes to? Because I saw her at the Billie Jean King Cup finals in Prague. I'm pretty sure she wore the same color. Have you ever associated Billie Jean King with a jacket that isn't that sort of color?
I know what you mean. Yeah, she does tend to wear that color a lot, doesn't she? And she did. I watched that interview she did with Amol Rajan on the BBC, and I'm sure. I'd have to go back, but I'm sure she was wearing pink for that as well. I mean, I think she's someone who obviously loves her bright colours, and I think it goes well with her style. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of magenta, so I'm down with that.
She loves it as much as I feel Bjorn Borg does love a cream light suit, I feel.
He always looks very dapper, doesn't he? I think he's
yeah.
got better with age. I mean, I wasn't around in his heyday, and I know everyone went mad for him, but I just think he looks so sort of suave. It's great. I love it when he comes back. And obviously everyone on centre court after this, was having to play with a lot of these great champions watching on. So I mean, Heather Watson, I don't think it really affected her performance, but I was slightly disappointed that she wasn't able to make more inroads against Niemeier, who, let's face it, we didn't have a clue who she was before this tournament, really. And no offense to her, I was looking back at her results in the build up to Wimbledon, and there was nothing really that, to be honest, would have suggested she would have gone on a run here. I mean, I think she took a set off Kasatkina and Bencic in warm up events, but to be into the quarterfinals of Wimbledon, in her first time in the main draw here, it's only her second slam overall. This is a new success, new young like German star, and she's obviously got a fantastic game for grass, and it's all coming to fruition nicely for her, much to the dismay of Heather Watson.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was really disappointing, for Heather. Who knows whether we'll see her, in round 4 at a Grand Slam again anytime soon. And it was just disappointing that I feel she just wasn't able to execute the game that we've seen. We've seen her play this tournament. She's played some great tennis, but for some reason or another, just wasn't able to, bring it out, in this match. It was a little bit like Katie Boulter played so well against Pliskova on the show court, and then put out onto court 2 was just a shadow of herself. And at times in that first set for Heather, unfortunately, I felt like she was a shadow of herself from earlier on in the tournament. And a little bit disappointed from that kind of perspective, but she's overall obviously had a great tournament. Niemeier also has had a impeccable tournament, and just generally, Kim, German ladies have had a great tournament, because Niemeier is going to play Tatiana Maria in the quarterfinals, an all German encounter, a bit of a, experience versus youth matchup. But that is because Maria came through Jelena Ostapenko, the number 12 seed, 5-7, 7-5, 7-5. I was there for it on court 1. And Kim, genuinely, I do not understand how Jelena Ostapenko lost this match. The number of times she was so close to winning, she had match points, but the longer the match went on, she got more and more frustrated. She managed, I feel, to let particularly the defensive play of Maria, with her, her trademark forehand slice. It just got under the skin of her, and she ultimately imploded by the end of it. And she got a warning, and she actually left the court throwing her water bottle at the chair. Chair fell over, and off she went.
Yeah, I mean, she should play mixed doubles with Nick Kyrgios. I mean, they'd be a right fire.
Oh, that would
pair.
be amazing. I'd be there for that. That'd be a great pairing.
Yeah, Ostapenko, I think it could be fair to say that she sort of defeated herself in a way with the number of unforced errors. Obviously she was really going for her shots, loads of winners, but as it can be expected, loads of unforced errors as well. Whereas Maria was playing a very tidy little game, especially as the match went on, only committing a handful of errors. I think in the second set she hit 0 unforced errors. So really tidy game, in complete contrast to Ostapenko, who's just obviously going for it, very aggressive. But that forehand slice from Maria just really getting to her as well.
What do you make of that forehand slice? Because I feel like it's a bit of a. I feel like when I've heard it talked about on TV, particularly by players from different generations, I feel like they just sort of think it's not like forehand slice. That is just not a weapon, and is a bit of an inferior shot compared to any other shot, and it should just like almost be a taboo. You should just not be able to have a forehand slice as your dominant shot of choice on your forehand and be able to reach a quarterfinal. But it's worked for Tatiana Maria. It's worked to a lesser extent for Harmony Tan as well, who reached the fourth round. I mean, what does that say, do you think, about like the forehand slice? Because for me, again, it just shows the sign of the times in terms of great defensive play can frustrate opponents, and particularly big hitting opponents who maybe feel like they have to go even bigger when they keep the ball low and they take the pace off it. And arguably, I think in that match, Ostapenko at times, quite a few times, was guilty of overplaying, given the number of unforced errors she made.
Yeah, I think there's a time and a place, isn't there? And I think it depends on the opponent. So it can work really well strategically against big hitters. You can ruffle their feathers, get under their skin. It's not going to work against everyone, which is probably why Tatiana Maria has only just got to her first Grand Slam quarterfinal. It's not like she it's not going to work against everyone, is it? And it's not perhaps the most standard of pathways to making it big. Obviously better late than never. It's absolutely fantastic she's got to this stage, and she's a great competitor. And obviously a lot of being said about the fact that she's a mum of 2 and like she's come back after her second maternity leave. I mean, regardless of all that, like, she deserves to be here. She's obviously been playing very, very well over the last 7 or 8, 9 days. But yes, I think it's all part. I think it's great if you've got that weapon up your sleeve. If it's just your go-to all the time, like with anything, too much of one thing, is perhaps too much. You need variety.
Yeah.
So
you need variety.
Yeah, a bit of everything.
She had a perfectly fine, flat forehand, and there were times where she did, bring it out, but it wasn't the dominant shot on that wing for her. And I don't feel like there's a lot of players who play that sort of game, and the players who do play that sort of game, we don't really talk about them as players in the second week of Grand Slam tournaments. So it's just a little just a name, perhaps again another sign of the times in terms of the courts and how they're playing and how it's a bit different to yesteryear.
Exactly. And we saw with like the likes of Ash Barty that variety can get you many places. So I certainly don't think Maria should be cutting it out of her game or anything like that.
But
no,
absolutely
it
not.
makes for a great contest when you've got 2 contrasting styles, and that's what we got. Match points saved, comebacks, a bit of drama at the end, and it was a fantastic match. I'm glad you got a decent match as part of your day out at Wimbledon, Joel. I was very pleased for you. We also had, aside from the Watson Niemeier match, we had Ons Jabeur coming through in straight sets as well, over Elise Mertens, the perennial Belgian. I think that match pretty much went par for the course. I wasn't expecting Mertens to upset Jabeur, to be honest.
I mean, Mertens pushed Jabeur all the way in that first set. And, it was, I was surprised with how well, Mertens played. It was certainly the toughest test of Jabeur's path so far. I think through the first 3 rounds, she'd only dropped something like, 13 games, I think. So this was definitely a step up in competition. And again, it just reasserted my point of view on Mertens, is that she has got like a top 10 defensive game on her hands. And that was at times a real handful for Ons Jabeur, but it never felt like she was ever going to get the victory, because she can never, I feel, fully turn defense into attack. And more often than not, she's playing on the back foot. And Jabeur was just making the most of those opportunities. And when it did get into that second set, you felt like the end of that first set was really kind of pivotal to Mertens' chances. And as soon as Jabeur grabbed the hold of the momentum, it was very easy for her, I think, to just kind of to come through. But she again is a player who's playing with full of confidence. She's put that round 1 defeat in the French Open to one side. And a lot of people are talking to me about Simona Halep, Ons Jabeur. Please let that be the final. And you've got to say, Kim, they're probably the 2 most formed players at the moment who are still left in the draw.
Yeah, I think that's a likely / credible prospect. And I mean, I think that would be a very entertaining final. I'd be happy with that. I mean, sadly, Joel, one player that won't be in with a shot is Caroline Garcia, because her renaissance has temporarily paused. She lost, I'm afraid, in the 4th round to Marie Buzkova. Buzkova was very good. She was very tidy, really on it from the word go, broke Garcia early on. Garcia was able to break back, but Buzkova snatched that first set and then kind of ran away a bit with the second. Really, really consistent performance from Buzkova, and Garcia not able to really challenge her. Unfortunately, she's had a great run, but Buzkova through to her first Grand Slam quarterfinal.
Kim, I was watching this whilst eating that lamb. Just wanted to point that out there. Yeah, it was it was a good performance from Buzkova. I think it's interesting. She's played 2 big hitters so far this tournament in Garcia and Danielle Collins, which I actually think was one of the matches of round 1. So she's going to come up against a completely different proposition in terms of the tricks and the trade of Ons Jabeur and that variety we've just kind of spoken about. So I'll be interested to see how she adapts from playing someone like Garcia, where she might get a few more free points, due to that unforced error count rising, versus someone like Ons Jabeur, who can, play the angles, is going to move Buzkova around the court. She's going to need a different strategy, I think, when it comes to a quarterfinal. And I think it'll be a tough battle for her. I would put Ons Jabeur as the favourite, given the confidence that she's playing with. But certainly Buzkova coming through Garcia, she will be thinking again at the same time, could be an opportunity for me to make a semi-final.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, stranger things have happened. And I mean, she's a junior champion at the US Open. I think, they obviously had high hopes for her when she was bursting onto the adult tour. So it's nice that she's kind of finally maybe coming of age. I don't really like that term, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I think she's obviously, I mean, I can't get over with Buzkova. She's the one that I know I've said this before, like a pigeon landed on her head or something at Roland Garros.
Kim, give her more credit than that. Come on,
ago.
Don't think of her as the player who had a pigeon land on her head.
So whenever I see her name, I just think of pigeons. Sorry, Marie, I do apologise. Let's move on to the men's action from yesterday, because we obviously had Novak against Tim van Rijthoven late on centre court. Tim got a set. It was quite interesting to see. I mean, I was just enjoying shouting "Come on, Tim" at the telly at home. Reminded me of my childhood.
It got a real resurgence in that match on centre court, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the 3rd and 4th sets were quickly, stamped out. Novak was very quick to get right on it, and Tim, wasn't really able to extend it any further. But I thought, for about half a set in the second set, Tim was flying high, and he did really, really well. I was very impressed with what I saw, and I think considering where he's come from, and in the last month too, if you'd have said to him, "Oh, you're going to win your home tournament as a wild card, then get a wild card to Wimbledon, play, the defending champion in the fourth round on centre court in a night match," essentially, I think he would have been absolutely over the moon. So I think it's just really nice for him to have had this experience, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do on the tour going forward. I hope this isn't sort of like a one-hit wonder.
I know what you mean, and it was a smart move, I think, by Wimbledon to give him a main draw wild card. It certainly lived up. He certainly lived up to the billing, didn't he? And taking a set off Djokovic, I was actually in there, was able to get in for this match, and watching it in person for sets 2, 3, and 4, I really kind of got the sense with Van Rijtenhoven that yes, he's got a big serve, but there's more to his game than that, and it still feels relatively raw. And I think you saw that as the match went on. You just felt that when when there were extended rallies or the points got into more of a rally situation, more often than not, Novak Djokovic was coming out on top. But you can never count out, I don't think, anyone who's got a serve like his. It was just so massive. And, there has to be credit given to Novak Djokovic in terms of how he dealt with it, because you just felt like everything was kind of against him. The clock was against him. The roof was closed. So you think those conditions would have suited the serve of Van Rijthoven. The crowd were, wanting it to go on. And, watching Djokovic return this guy's serve, it was very, very impressive. And, even in that second set that Van Rijthoven won after what felt like lots and lots of juices on his serve, he got to a point, Kim, when he was just serving 2 first serves as opposed to a first serve and a second serve, because given the quality of Djokovic and how he was playing at the time, you just felt that that was the strategy to go with. And again, I just think that shows just how well Djokovic was seeing the ball on the court. And it's a little bit, I think, of a warning sign in terms of going forward in the tournament, that yes, he did drop a set, but the way he bounced back relatively comfortably from losing that second set, it's I think it's a warning sign to the rest of the field still in the competition.
Yeah, I mean, he is the best returner in the game, isn't he? And so if anyone's going to be able to return Tim Van Rijthoven's serve, it's Novak. And yes, scary in a way. I still think he's definitely the man to beat, as I'm sure most people do. It's hard to look beyond him. I mean, he'll be up against Jannik Sinner in the quarterfinals tomorrow, because Sinner managed to come past Carlos Alcaraz in 4 sets, 6-1, 6-4, 6-7, 6-3. Sinner's recent partnership with Darren Cahill perhaps coming into good effect here, because he'd never won a match on grass before this tournament, which is somewhat surprising. But now he's into the quarters, and he was definitely the better player against Alcaraz, especially for the first 2 sets. I mean, I was pleased that it got a bit closer. Alcaraz was able to make a match of it by clinching that third set, although he did save match points to do so. But big win for Sinner, I think, making it through to another Grand Slam quarterfinal. Previously has done that at Roland Garros, but especially on grass, where he hasn't had any form going into this tournament so far.
Yeah, we did sort of suspect that even though Alcaraz was the higher seeded, that Sinner was going into this as a favourite. And it is a little bit surprised, I think, given what he hasn't done on grass. And it shows, I think, the leaps and bounds that he's gone into this tournament and made the quarterfinals. Yes, it is going to be a very tough matchup against Novak Djokovic, and it's a player that he's obviously played before and he's had experiences against him, but that's going to be a tough proposition, which it looks like it will probably be on center court. Djokovic's very special court, so very, very tough for him. Another good performance from Alcaraz. Again, it was impressive the way he took that third set, and I thought he was going to give a little bit more in that fourth, but Jannik Sinner sort of wrestled control back and was able to get it done in 4. I thought it was Kim going to go to 5. I thought maybe we would have like a an Alcaraz special and coming back from the brink and 2 sets down, but yeah, Sinner, I think, showing, even though he necessarily doesn't have the experience of, playing on grass courts, he's got that experience of being on the tour for a few years now. Those big matches, maybe not at Grand Slams, but certainly at the, the Masters level. And I think he used that to his, his advantage, against Alcaraz.
Yeah, and I was thinking, Sinner's also still extremely young. He's only, I think, like a year or two older than Alcaraz. So much was said about Sinner being, the youngest person to do this, that, and the other when he sort of started playing on the tour. And now Alcaraz has kind of stolen that mantle from him. So I think it's this is obviously a match of two very, very young, exciting, talented prospects. All the fuss recently has been on Alcaraz. So, perhaps it's time for Sinner to steal a little bit of that limelight back, perhaps. But yeah, we'll see how they get on. They are on centre tomorrow, Sinner against Djokovic. The other quarterfinal tomorrow is of course featuring Britain's Cam Norrie against David Goffin. I mean, super pleased for Norrie. I feel like we haven't really spoken much about him. Neither has the media, to be quite honest with you. They've not gone mad over him like they would if this was Andy Murray. But I think that's probably helped Norrie. He's been able to sort of comfortably get on with his tennis, and he came through in straight sets against Tommy Paul, 6-4, 7-5, 6-4, into this stage of a slam for the first time. Very calm and sort of composed performance. And he's got David Goffin next, which, David Goffin, yes, he's come through to the quarterfinals. Absolutely, very nifty player, very difficult to play against. But surely this is just a brilliant opportunity for Norrie to go one step further and set up his first, semi-final against probably Djokovic. I mean, surely he can outlast Goffin, because Goffin will be a bit tired as well from his match, won't he?
Yes, yeah, 4 hours 36 against Tiafoe, coming through 7-5 in the fifth. That was again one of the matches of the tournament so far. I think Tiafoe, was very close. Think he had break points to serve for it, wasn't able to do it. But yeah, certainly a big opportunity for Cam. David Goffin, Kim, I feel like this is an amazing story for him, because he's had his own injury troubles. I thought he was a little bit over the hill. I thought his peak was Belgium in the Davis Cup final against Andy Murray all those years ago. But the way he has come back, you can never count him out on a grass court. And he was just able to kind of eke it over the line. But certainly Cam Norrie will be going into that match full of confidence, not just because of the amount of time I think Goffin has just kind of spent on court, but coming through against Tommy Paul, tricky customer, hadn't dropped a set going into round 4. Again, I was sort of match side for it. There was that little wobble in the second set where I think he served for it, and Tommy Paul broke back for 5-all, but again didn't get down in the dumps, just got on with it, got straight back to breaking Paul and then serving it out. And he, again, I thought he was just playing some very, very solid tennis, did what he needed to do. And Tommy Paul, although I think, he, was coming into it, I think, in his position of, I'm a cool guy with my backwards cap and I'm going to see what I can do here. Cam Norrie, I just think, lived up to his seeding. And although the scoreline looked close, I never really felt that, Norrie was in any sort of real danger.
No, exactly. I think when he went sort of 2 sets up, I thought, I felt safe. Didn't have that sort of typical like, oh God, moment with a British player on court.
Kim, I will say though, with Tommy Paul, and listeners, whenever you watch him play, if the TV camera catches it, his setup before a point is amazing. It's like, I wish I could do that. He flips his racket, then spins it like 360 horizontally a couple of times, and then gets ready to, gets into kind of the ready position. It's really bizarre. I don't know if it's just like a superstition he has, or that's his routine. But he does like these little tricks before he starts the point, and I just think it, again, just like he was a very cool customer, didn't really get too flustered or frustrated, just played his game and came up a bit short. And I did love, Kim, I heard a rumor that he was in the pub that evening having a drink. So that sort of endeared him to me a little bit after defeat as well.
Well, if it's after your match, then go for it. There's quite a nice variety of pubs around that area, so go for it, Tommy Paul. Enjoy yourself. I mean, I wonder if Jamie Murray and Venus Williams went to the pub after their mixed doubles.
Oh,
because
they will have needed a strong drink
I know.
after that defeat, right?
What a match. They had 5 match points, but they lost to British pair Johnny O'Mara and Alicia Barnett, who, fair enough, British crowd can't be too annoyed that they beat Jamie and Venus. But yeah, 18-16 in the third set tiebreak. This was out on court 2. Really exciting match. And obviously a bit of a shame that Jamie and Venus, amazing pairing. Everyone would love to have seen them continue through the draw, but it wasn't to be. But at least we've got some Brits through from that win anyway. And I mean, the Brits in terms of the doubles, men's doubles, a lot of the Brits are out, but Joe Salisbury's still going strong, which is good, as the top seed with Rajiv Ram. But Jamie Murray is also out of the men's doubles, and also Lloyd Glasspool is out as well, with his partner Heli Ovara. They came back to a 5th set against Mektic and Pavic and then lost, which is a bit frustrating.
As I said, very frustrating for Jamie Murray and Venus Williams. I genuinely thought they weren't there to make up the numbers. I thought they had a shot at maybe, winning the title. I mean, Jamie Murray's obviously done that, has done that before. But O'Mara and Barnett, just too good. It was amazing how much clutch tennis they were playing, particularly when they were, all those match points down in that championship tiebreak right at the end. Frustrating. But Venus Williams didn't get too down in the dumps. She came back for that centenary celebration, but disappointing nonetheless.
Yeah, and I mean, for the women's doubles, all the Brits are out. Dart and Watson lost to Ostapenko and Kitchenok, who they're really good pairing. So no Brits in the women's doubles anymore. And I mean, in terms of the mixed doubles, Neil Skupski is still in it with Krojcik and obviously O'Mara and Barnett. But I have a feeling Sock and Goff are going to win the mixed. They've been doing really well, and I think that's a cool pairing. So we'll see about that one. We'll be rounding all of the remaining doubles and singles results, of course, up in our next episode and beyond. I mean, just a little update on collector set, Joel, because we've done the 4th round now. We're over halfway through. We've still got Rafa and Nick Kyrgios in our collector set. So all results will be resting on what they can do over the next few days or so.
It's not been a good tournament for collector set, has it?
There's only been 4 correct predictions in total across the board. Wow. I've lost all of mine. I'm out. I think I'm the only player to actually. Oh no, me and Joanna are the only ones to not have got anything right so far.
You're in good company then.
Exactly. And I mean, Phil is still on to get 3 correct right. So shout out to him. He could do it, but we'll post an update later on this week. It's been a difficult one prediction wise, isn't it, this tournament?
Yes, definitely. But looking forward, Kim, to tomorrow, the order of play. So on centre, we've got Djokovic, Sinner, followed by Bushkova, Jabeur, and then on court 1, we've got the all-German affair, Tatiana Maria versus Jule Niemeier, and then that is followed by Goffin, Norrie. Where are you thinking? What are your thoughts on the quarterfinals from tomorrow? Who are you picking as your winners?
Oh, Novak Djokovic in straight sets, Jabeur in straight sets. I'm gonna go Niemeier, I think.
Okay.
I feel like she could go all the way, actually, potentially. I mean, maybe that's
what?
Well,
Niemeier.
Well, yeah,
like a Raducanu.
Why not? It's honestly, we said at the start of the tournament, like anyone in this draw could win. And then Cam Norrie in 4 sets. Oh, going for that prediction. Obviously, though, Joel, 3rd on court 18 is Freddie Nilsson and Johnny Murray in the invitational doubles.
Invitational. Well, I have been enjoying the photos of the invitational teams coming back. I saw one of Jankovic and Radwanska earlier, which is just great to see. I'm going to go Djokovic in 5.
5? Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go
Okay.
5. Yeah. I'm going to go Jabeur in the straights. I'm actually going to go Tatiana Maria. I think her experience, and I think she's going to make the most of. I just think she's going to teach youth a lesson, German youth a lesson, actually. So I'm going to go Maria, and then I've got to go Cam Norrie in 4 as well, I think. I think David Goffin, the longer that match goes on, I feel like the more it's going to favour Norrie. And he's back out on court 1, which I think helps as well. So, yeah. Well, fingers crossed for Cam. Could, Wimbledon semi-final in the offing. And also, Kim, court 3, Kravitz and Mies versus Mektic Pavic.
Oh, that is
Men's
decent.
doubles final.
Yeah, that is really decent, actually. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're hoping for a Kravitz and Mies win for you, Joel. I know you love a bit of Kravitz and Mies.
I think Jack Sock could win. Although, I'm quite serious. I think Jack Sock could win the men's doubles and the mixed doubles. Sock and Cudler, they are against, Cabal and Farah, tomorrow in the quarters. But again, quite a decent scratch pairing, I feel, that could spring a surprise in the draw.
Well, Jack Sock's won men's doubles here already, so he knows what it takes. So yeah, and obviously he was doing well in the singles as well compared to the last couple of years. But we'll be back, won't we, on Wednesday night to round all the action up, and by then we'll know all of our semi-finalists. So yeah, watch this space.
Yes, listeners, I hope you've enjoyed listening to this round 4 catch up with Tennis Weekly at Wimbledon. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action to come on whatever device you listen to us on. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all good podcasting platforms out there. And you can also listen to us on the downloadtennis.com app. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Tennis Weekly Pod. So do give us a like and a follow. Let us know all your thoughts. Send us any comments or queries that you may have. And if you prefer, you can do that via email instead. We're available on tennisweeklypod@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out our website as well, www.tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back on Wednesday at Tennis Weekly HQ to catch up on all the quarterfinals action at Wimbledon. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We will see you again soon.